So here we are with some entertainment news that I think are very central to the culture, or rather represent a central theme and problem with the culture right now. And it is Star Wars unveils first look of its first Transformer Stormtrooper woman called Sister, with armor in the color of the trans flag. I am going to have to try and restrict my speech a lot here, I think, due to the YouTube algorithm. Named the Sister, she is clad in armor painted in the blue and pink of the trans flag and was pictured for the first time in a new book released earlier this week. The dreadlock-sporting soldier first appeared in a reference in an earlier 2022 novel, A Queen's Hope, before later being depicted in a piece of fan art. Now her story and picture have been featured in Star Wars The Secrets of the Clone Troopers, which added her to the franchise's official lore. But the new character's addition has left fans of the Galaxy Far Far Away saga split, with some branding it utterly insane gender cult worship and moronic, while others rage it was... well, never mind, I can't read that. So this is the character. I can say that I am very glad that Star Wars is not my favorite IP. It's just something that I enjoyed the prequels and the sequels of, like the first two trilogies. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy the sequels. I thought it was quite a clever commentary on the internal problems that could arise in a democracy. I suppose a lot of people are slightly less... how to put it? Slightly more favorable towards the sequels right now, also because of the drop in quality in entertainment across the board, making the admittedly less than stellar quality of character portrayal, let's say, in the sequels a bit less jarring. We are sort of used to lower quality. Anyway, they say that may your hobby become mainstream is a curse, and I fully agree. I used to think that more people and more acceptance would mean that there would be a less of a... how to put it? Less backlash for admitting that you enjoy gaming culture and the like, and there would be more money put into it, so the quality would rise. I guess for a short, brief period, that's really what happened when gaming and fantasy and the like became mainstream, and then we saw politics and the soulless corporations come in and transform everything into a desolate landscape, utterly bereft of soul and value. And as a result, there's scarcely anything worth mentioning in the entire entertainment industry in the West, apart from indie games, honestly. It's the same with books. You can see that the quality dropped a lot in the last decade or so in terms of what is not necessarily what authors want to publish, but rather what is being published by the brand name publications. And of course movies, and of course comics, although I'm less involved in that. Video games, which I am definitely involved with. I mean, I definitely am a customer of. Just across the board. And who is this for, honestly? If you identify as the opposite gender, wouldn't you just want to be represented as such? Like, as just being born, the gender you want to be, in a fantasy or science fiction or whatever setting? Like, why would you want to be one identifying as the other if you could choose, considering that the entire... how to put it, the sympathy for these people is based around the difficulty of bearing the burden, you know? Like, people who identify as the opposite gender are far, far more likely to end themselves than those who don't. And so, obviously, if you could, you know, not carry that burden, just for a moment, pretend to have been born as you would have wished, why wouldn't you? I've seen similar sentiments expressed by people about disabilities being inserted into, let's say, D&D, where basically people say that if they need a wheelchair in real life, then they don't want their character in the game to be wheelchair bound. They want them to be able to walk like everyone else for a moment in a fantasy, to experience it. I mean, why would you think otherwise? I can't understand. Not to mention, the trans people are less than 1%, like 0.1%, at most 0.5% by the most generous estimations. Why are they everywhere? What's with this representation everywhere in everything? I don't understand. There's no economic sense to it. It's not true representation of their percentage in society. It's not. I don't think it's what most of them would wish for. So, who's this for? It's just activism for its own sake. Virtue signaling and trying to normalize this as not as well, treat these people just like you would everyone else, but rather this is the new normal. And nobody will accept this. Nobody will agree with this, and they shouldn't. It's an absolutely awful idea. I'd also want to say that it's not a singular occurrence, even within Star Wars. It says here, Sister is not the only trans character. Star Wars, Ferret and Twin Terek are trans non-binary Jedi Knights who previously appeared in the High Republic 2 in 2021. So they're doing this again and again. I remember I used to play a bit of Guild Wars 2. In my opinion, it's vastly inferior to Guild Wars 1, mind you. But never mind. And they, since then, started adding these sorts of non-binary and queer characters to the game too. It's just everywhere. I believe Final Fantasy XIV had a voice actor that was trans for the sort of centric character for the latest expansion, and it did. People just said the quality wasn't very good. They didn't necessarily get angry at the fact that it's a trans person, but rather they just said that the quality of the voice acting wasn't up to par. And this was a character that was endemic to the entire expansion. Just almost every moment you're with them. So they also said that the writing definitely didn't help. So it might not be necessarily that person's fault, but you can't help but wonder because of the tendency to hire people based on external characteristics as opposed to merit across the board. Whether it's because of skin color or gender or identity or whatever it is, people get hired and they might not be good at their jobs at all, and it's fine so long as they check the fit the little check boxes that they have, and especially if they're activists about it, if they have the right politics, then that's enough. I heard a lot about Ubisoft being in financial trouble. Ubisoft is one of the largest gaming corporations, like the video game producers in the world, and they used to have absolutely amazing titles. Assassin's Creed, for example. And despite past successes, in recent years they've had one flop after another, all of them exceedingly expensive, with the company being bloated in terms of the number of people working there, but producing absolutely nothing of value. Just financial failure after financial failure. And they are now on the chopping block, potentially to be sold to Tencent, a Chinese company that's basically representing the Chinese government. And you just have to wonder, how far will this go? It's just, how much more does everything have to deteriorate? Because the financial failure of wokeness, of identity politics being inserted into entertainment is across the board. When they have a mediocre success, then they tout it everywhere as if this is the new normal. And it's mostly by mistake, in my opinion, when they are less blunt with their identity politics and somehow the quality of the product hasn't dropped yet, the next game from the same studio will always be an absolute flop. It's just they haven't weeded out all of the people that were hired on meritocratic value yet. And that's all. You could say, for example, that Baldur's Gate 3 is very woke, in my opinion. I absolutely enjoyed Baldur's Gate 2. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite games of all time. And I did not enjoy Baldur's Gate 3. I thought it was very woke. Male orcs with pink hair and such. It's just, there was a lot of nonsense there. It's not just the representation. The writing wasn't very good. The way they did the story, even the romances were more like a one-night stand, honestly. It's just, you could see that the people that created it, even the body language was so aggressive and smug. From even background characters that completely didn't fit the personalities. It's just everything rubbed me the wrong way about the game. But apparently the gameplay itself, like the combat and exploration and such, is good. And if you have a higher tolerance to the identity things, you might enjoy it. Like, compared to most of modern gaming, it's a higher quality product, and so it was a success. I think it's not a coincidence either, because Larian Studios is privately owned by an older man, I believe, and his wife, who are, how to put it, more passionate about the genre. They did collaborate with, I believe, Wizards of the Coast, who are very, very woke. So it's not a surprise that it's sort of a mix of competence and identity politics. But this is the exception to the rule, and it's very, very rare. 99 times out of 100, identity politics rots any piece of entertainment from the inside, and there's nothing left in terms of competence. Mass Effect 4. Mass Effect was a huge series. I very much enjoyed the first two. The third one, in my opinion, was kind of a flop. Just disappointing. Not necessarily a bad game, but the epic conclusion to the saga should have been so much more, especially the ending, and it flopped. People say that they sort of saved it with a revision to the ending that they did. I didn't feel satisfied, but never mind. The main point I wanted to make is Mass Effect 4 Andromeda came out and it was horrible. People said that the facial expressions of the characters seemed as though they were on the special spectrum. It was that bad. Apparently, the person they hired to do these animations, or to manage the team making these animations, had absolutely zero background in video games and was just a feminist. So, this is not to say that if you are a feminist you can't make good video games, but rather being a feminist is not qualifications for being a good video game producer, a coder, whatever. Anyway, I think I've taken enough of your time. I just see a rift between the people who manage huge corporations that are iconic institutions in our culture and literally everybody else. And this rift is widening and causing catastrophic results economically. I wonder how it's all going to turn out, because right now they don't seem to give even a hint of turning things around, in my opinion. I know that some people talk about a certain, how to put it, rebranding, but in my opinion, that's all it's going to be. I don't think they're going to change their minds. They're far too deep in this hole, and also they basically can't really help it because of the financial incentives they've worked on so far from mainly BlackRock, let's be honest. And I don't think they have the breath financially to pivot, because they'd have to basically fire all of the workers and get new ones. They just can't one day wake up and decide to make good games again, to take politics out of the equation. All of the all of the employees are activists, or at least most of them, and they are incompetent in making games. You hear insider stories all the time about how they use outside studios because their own teams just can't produce what they need. They're incompetent. So it would be a Herculean effort for a large corporation to turn things around right now. Perhaps those that are in less dire straits than Ubisoft might manage it. Blizzard, although I don't see any sign that they want to. They just released an Overwatch character that's non-binary, trans, something of the sort. I honestly heard about it just from people laughing at it. I used to play Overwatch, I haven't for a long time, and I'm not keeping up either. I can stay disinterested longer than they can stay solvent. That's the mantra we all keep saying to ourselves. And somehow I think it's working. Thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.